I'm Larry Mahan. I'm here at the World's Championship Working Ranch Cowboy Association Rodeo in Amarillo, Texas. And it is an absolute amazing event. I got into the rodeo game actually when I was about, I guess I could say that I got into it when I was about 11 years old. I won a calf riding event in Redmond, Oregon, won $6 in a belt buckle, and I was hooked on the feeling. And that had such an effect on my life, and I realized in retrospect that to be able to have a passion at an early age and then start setting goals was just an amazing blessing. So from there I was fortunate enough to win 6 World's Championships in the all-around category and 2 in the bull riding. But I thought very often that if it wasn't for ranch cowboys, nobody would have ever heard of Ty Murray, Trevor Brazil, or any of the other rodeo cowboys, including myself. So we have so much to be thankful for that came from the ranching industry and the heritage and the culture that again, it's done so much for so many people. And here at this event, it's not like your regular rodeo. I mean, these are competitors, real cowboys that are out there doing what they do on the ranch. Great horses, great horsemen. They have the youth programs, the working cow horse program for the kids, which is absolutely amazing. And these kids from 8 to teenage years are great riders. They've developed skills that I still haven't developed. And the scholarship program has put, I believe, about $2.5 million into the hands of these ranch families. Plus, there's a great crisis fund that helps those that are in need. And when you're playing a game as dangerous as rodeo, you're gonna find yourself in that situation quite often. But in the ranching world, that element of danger is still there. I mean, so many things can happen. And to have the association keep the culture and the heritage alive is something that we all have to support. Well, this is my second time here to observe the World's Championship finals, and the first time, I mean, it blew me away. Let's talk about the bronc riding. Okay. I mean, when you're a professional saddle bronc rider in the professional rodeo world, you have an association saddle that is made to ride bucking horses, and it's made to keep your leg up against the swell of that saddle. And the thought of getting on a hairy old bucking horse in a ranch saddle has never entered my mind. I never will, I promise you. I mean, and I'm anxious to see the bronc riding throughout the rest of the event here this year. But that first year, I mean, these were not spoiled saddle horses. These are big-time, serious bucking horses. And then all of the other events that go along with it. I mean, if you've followed the Working Ranch Cowboy events, you know about all of them. If you haven't, you're going to get hooked on the feeling right off the bat. I mean, because it is the real deal. And these contestants are cowboys that can go out there and they can do it all. They can build a fence, they can doctor cattle in the pasture. I think it's just so important that we can keep the tradition alive, because it has set the bar for dedication, determination, making a total commitment to the lifestyle. And the ranching industry and the world of agriculture and that culture feeds the world. So it's not, this is not a world that people go out and do just to enjoy or to make money. I mean, the benefits go throughout the world. And without the ranching industry and the cattle industry and everything else that goes along with it, I mean, this world is in a lot of trouble right now. We would really be in trouble if we didn't have ranches, cowboys, good cattle, and of course good horses. My passion has always been the horse, and before I went to my first rodeo, my folks got me a horse when I was about 9 or 10 years old, and that set the table for me. Well, you know, looking at these good horses, good horses are created by good riders that have developed the skills in the art of riding. And it doesn't matter if you're riding a rope horse or a horse to cut cattle on or work cattle out of a pen or whatever you might be doing. It's that line of communication that good cowboys really open up with their horses. And the thing that I've been impressed with, that I don't see somebody out there jerking around on a horse and using the spurs in a way that it's going to be a problem for the horse. And to me, it's all about making that connection to the horse. So that's one of the things that I really look for, and I really respect the fact that these cowboys and cowgirls have developed the ability to ride good horses, and to me, riding a good horse is like driving a good car. I mean, you can go so long, but you have to keep them tuned up from the get-go. When something goes wrong, you need to fix it. And quite often, if something goes wrong, it could be because the lack of communication isn't there the way it probably needs to be. So the good horsemen or good horse people are not afraid to look in the mirror and say, I can get better at this. And to me, that's what it's all about. I mean, every day is a challenge to see if we can better our position in life in general, but if it's horses, then my goal has been for many, many years to try to become the best horseman that I can become in the disciplines that I like to ride in. But it doesn't matter if it's a bucking horse or a good saddle horse, it's still riding. So I think of it as riding athletically. So when you get into that, what does that mean? That means that no matter what the athletic endeavor is, you have to have total control over every cell and tissue in your body, and you have to be able to send the energy to all of these different body parts and bring them into the game whenever it's necessary. And that's so important with horses because our body is what we use to indicate to that horse what we would like for him to do next. So if I go back from there, everything that I indicate to the horse that I would like him to do, he feels it goes through his mind to his body. So it doesn't start with my body, it starts with my mind. So I have to have total control over my mind, my body, my emotions. And it's always a challenge if a person thinks that a horse didn't do something correctly, that we can do it without getting emotionally involved or overreacting. So again, to me, it boils down to communication again. How well can we communicate with that animal? How well can we get our point across to him with the tools that we have and what we'd like for him to do? And then when you have competitive events like the World Championship here, there's not a lot of room for error, but it's going to happen. It's going to happen in any game. And it's always fun to me to see how people handle winning and how they handle losing. I mean, it's easy to handle winning as long as you don't let it go to your head. But that's one thing about I think the rodeo game, where the working ranch cowboy game or the professional rodeo game as we see it in this day and age, we really have to constantly work on becoming a better rider, a better communicator with the animal, and not be afraid to look in the mirror and say, that was my fault. And if we think the horse did something wrong, I probably would have to say, there's an old saying, if the horse does something wrong, make the wrong thing difficult and the right thing easy. The horse, being the natural animal that he is, if he does something, he does it because he thinks that's what he has to do to survive. And what I think he did that was wrong wasn't wrong in his mind. And one of the great areas that the horse brings to the table, from what I understand, and I totally believe this, I've heard it for many years from great horsemen, the horse never leaves the moment. You know, people get monkey-minded and you're working on one thing and then all of a sudden you're thinking about something else and something else. Their strongest instinct being survival, they're concerned about the moment. And if we can learn to get into the moment, now, again, that's what I think the horse brings to the table. When I'm riding at my best, I have to be in the moment. If I'm going to do what I really want to do, which is do nothing more than direct his thinking, and to direct his thinking is changing his mind from one thought to the next, I better be in tune to me, the mind, the body, the spirit, because that's what I'm riding. I'm riding a huge mind and a body and spirit that if you've never ridden a big, powerful horse that's moving at a fast speed, there's a lot of spirit there. There's a lot of energy, and it's controlling the energy. And that could be riding a horse, or everything we do in life revolves around energy and attitude. So the attitude plays a very important part in it. So if young people, for example, get hooked on a feeling with horses early, and then they are exposed to different competitions they can play in, I think that sets the table for them to be able to be successful in a lot of areas in life. The instincts that have been bred into these really top cow horses still amazes me. And I've had some pretty nice horses, but still when you take an animal with that much size and that much energy, and they're willing to let us do the things with them that we want to do with them, and that's a God's gift. I have become an addict. I'm an addict, and I love my addiction. It's horses and cattle.
I love it.
And I enjoy longhorn cattle because of the history and the tradition. And my wife Julianne, she is a good cow woman. She raises F1s and Brayfords, so we have and she's a good rider. So that, you know, when husband and wife can, or your significant other can have something in common, that's a real plus. I mean, that's the relationship, and that's what I feel is very important when we're riding horses. I mean, we are developing a relationship, and one that hopefully is going to last as long as we want it to. And we control a lot of that. If we can control all of this, then we can stand a lot better chance of being able to get that horse to do what we want him to do. I have been breeding horses for about 30 some years, and it has turned into a full-time job, although this year I didn't breed any because of the numbers that I now have. We have about 80 head, a lot of brood mares and a few stallions, but I'm cutting back. I'm way too young to be this old, but I really want to simplify, and I want to spend a little more time doing some of the competitive events that I like to do, which is cutting once in a while and some roping, and I'd like to understand more or have a chance to get involved in the ranch riding and the event that I watched today, and with the youth and the older, but not as old as me type cowboys.
Yeah, very good.
And then we do a lot of work for different charity situations that we believe in, and that's so important. I mean, if we're blessed enough to be successful, whatever success is, and the bottom line is we're all here to make a contribution. So there's a lot of ways that can be done, and it's amazing when I go back and think about when I was really in the tunnel of the rodeo game, and you have blinders on so big that a workhorse couldn't hold his head up, and then all of a sudden these other doors start opening up, and you're in a position where you can do a lot and give some back, and that's important. And I really respect everybody that's taken their time and energy to create the Working Ranch Cowboy Association, and then this event here is absolutely amazing. I mean, the National Finals Rodeo in Las Vegas is not any better watching than what I'm seeing right here in Amarillo.
Awesome.
And this is a great place for it.
Yeah.
It's wonderful. And this is Texas. This is big ranching country. There's a lot of country in Texas, but this area out here has a real special feel to it. And the people out here that survive and have survived in the ranching industry, I mean, they obviously love it. And there's a lot of things that a lot of people could do to make more money, but if it's really part of the lifestyle and the culture that you want to enjoy and raise your kids in, you're not going to find a better opportunity to do that than something where you can get the whole family involved. And on a ranch, kids start working at an early age, and they find out what that's all about. They find out about discipline, and then self-discipline, and the game goes on.
Yeah, it's a good way to grow up.
Depending on how badly you want to be the best you can be. My favorite horse was a horse called Descent, 6 times world champion bucking horse that Harry Vold was one of the owners of many, many years ago.
Okay.
But I was young enough to say that this is my favorite bucking horse. Now he would probably be my least favorite. But right now we have a little stud that I really like that I go to maybe 3 or 4 cuttings a year on, and he's my highbrow cat.
Oh.
And we've just absolutely loved him. And then my first when I quit the rodeo game, and I say quit because I heard Jim Shoulder say one time, somebody said, well, what are you going to do when you retire? He said, my understanding of retirement is somebody sends you a check every month. He said, in the rodeo game, you just quit. So, but the great thing about horses is that you can do it forever. I mean, as long as you get to the age that maybe you can't physically ride the way you would like to, or maybe you have to stop riding, but you can still do the work on the ground. You can create that line of communication and trust. And I think that's a very important aspect of dealing with horses. They have to trust us before they can really give us their heart. Now we can force them to do the things that we want them to do. I've seen that, and it's been quite a journey for me to go from someone who didn't have any understanding at all about that to someone who's totally tuned into it now. And it's very important to me that I know that horse is happy.
Yeah, that's really cool.
So there's an old book that I ran across years ago called The 4 Agreements. And one of them would be impeccable to your word, no assumptions,